You better go check.
Hi, Alison.
Hello there. I'll turn my noise sound off.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the community information session for the Eagle Cliff Cove Bay Connection Project. We're all here because the Bowen Island municipality is moving forward with the Eagle Cliff Cove Bay Connection Project, with the goal being to ensure a safer, more reliable, and a more sustainable source of drinking water for the Eagle Cliff community. Today, we're going to be hearing from the project team, which includes some municipal staff, engineers, and some water experts. And then after we've heard from all of those people, you'll be given the opportunity to ask some questions and take part in the discussion. I'll start by introducing myself. I am Sarah Baxter. I am the Communications Coordinator for the Bowen Island Municipality. With us today, we have Kieran Dillon, who is the Chief Administrative Officer for the municipality. We have Kristen Watson, the Chief Financial Officer. We have Phil Muirhead, who's a drinking water specialist with the Vancouver Coastal Health. We have Glenn Schuren, who is a consulting engineer from Urban Systems. I believe we have Aaron Hamilton. Aaron, are you here? Or we will have Aaron. He is a project manager from NB Contracting Limited. We're also joined by Annette Frischman, who is our utilities coordinator here at the municipality, and also Gerrit Dunce, who is our utilities person. Manager. Thank you. I just lost my spot. It would be great if everyone could please keep their microphones on mute unless they're actually speaking. We are going to hold all questions until after the presentations have completed. And with that, I'm going to pass over to Phil from Vancouver Coastal Health, who's going to get us started.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hear me coming in clearly, Sarah?
Yes, thank you, Phil.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad everybody's here. It's always good to see people, partaking and being involved in their drinking water system. I'm a drinking water specialist with Vancouver Coastal Health, and what that means is I was a former drinking water officer, as your regular drinking water officer, Ross Adamson. We work very closely together. And my organization needed a kind of a point person to deal with all the different things with water and interacting with all the different ministries and other health authorities. And they asked me to I'd be willing to step into that role. And I rejected it for a while because I really like being out in the field. But since I've taken the role, I've really enjoyed it. And so what I'm just going to talk about here is just kind of why, maybe a little background, just if you're not aware, why Vancouver Coastal Health is in support of this project. I'm just going to talk briefly about the structural integrity, the dam, water quantity issues, and then water quality. So as you're all aware, I'm sure, there has been some issues with the structural integrity of the dam. Now, I haven't actually seen these reports. I've had discussions with Ross over this for many times. So I'm just kind of here today because he wasn't able to make it. But the important thing, I brought this up I sit on a lot of BORDs and committees that are provincial wide, and I brought this up, the situation with Eagle Cliff. And the response I got was it's not an unusual or unique situation that your dam has been reported to have issues. Especially the interior health have many water systems that are struggling with this. And obviously, communities that were built many decades ago, and rules are a little bit different back then, but also just the wearing and time and such. That there's a lot of dams out there that are supporting small water systems, and yet they've been told that they're having problems, and they're probably going to have to disable it and rebuild it and such like that. What is kind of unique with your situation, Eagle Cliff, is you were able to get a whole bunch of money to deal with the problem and not just replace it, but actually, connect to another water system. And that's important to know that this funding is time limited. Buying power diminishes over time. So the sooner you're doing the work, you're probably going to be able to buy more stuff. I've noticed some of our projects that have been delayed for long periods of time. When it comes time to doing the project, the money isn't there anymore, and it's not at the level that they need to finish the job, and that puts a lot more burden on the community. And also, it's really important to note that the money is very specific to the connection to the larger water system adjacent or somewhat adjacent to Eagle Cliff, right? It's not money that you can just be taken to the board and the water system used for what they need to. So with that, I want to talk about water quantity. I mean, I don't really need to go into a lot of detail about the knowingness of what's happening with our climate and such, is that we're going to be getting drier periods and wetter periods. That's what they're predicting for our particular region here, right? So looking on the thing of low water situation. So not only does the water, make it, when you don't have the quantity of water that's required and going on restrictions, is when that water is just sitting there stagnant. I'm sure you guys probably have recognized that it starts to get quality issues start coming up. The color starts building up more and more over time. And I put it to akin, it's what it is, it's all the material, all the decaying material and such, and leaf matter and things that are in the water basin that over time kind of release out what we call natural organic material, NOM. Tannin is another term for it. And it's very much akin to, having a huge pot of water and throwing in a tea bag in it. Like right away, it doesn't really do much, but over time, you start seeing the color come out of the tea bag and it starts getting to the water. And that has real big impacts later on when you're trying to treat the water, which I'll get to when in the next little section there. Particularly with both, basically, you've got two forms of treatment, ultraviolet and chlorine, and that natural organic material kind of have negative effects on both of those situations. I understand you guys have some extra wells on hand to supplement the water during low periods of time. That they've also been noted as having elevated arsenic levels in the water, so they're requiring treatment. So I will let you know that the standard for arsenic levels in water, that's what we call, acceptable, it's kind of dictated to us from a document called the Canadian Guidelines for Drinking Water Quality. It's put out by Health Canada. They do all the big research on it and health impacts on things like that. And the level that we have now is actually going to be halved. So it's going to be much lower, like half of what we call permitted. But there also is something about arsenic is it's got a LARA statement. And a LARA is as low as reasonably achievable. So that means that you don't just stop at that level. If you can lower it even more, you go for it, as long as it's, reasonably achievable. So that's kind of what that's referring to there. And then so now on the other end of the scale, we've got the high water situations, right? Excess of rains and lots of mobility. That's usually when we start getting a lot more turbidity in the water. And again, turbidity is going to be impacting both the UV and the chlorination. So on the water quality, if you haven't aware of it, I'm not sure what everybody's understanding of what's required for treatment on surface water. So we have this little acronym that we go with. It's called the 43210 rule. And that's basically saying that we need to have a 4-log reduction of viruses in that surface water. We need a 3-log reduction of cysts and oocysts, so that's going to be your Giardia and your Cryptosporidium, those parasites. We need 2 forms of treatment that's reducing, disinfecting the water, and 1 NTU, and that's just a measurement of turbidity in the water. And the last 0 refers to 0 coliforms, which is including E. coli. So when we talk about log reduction, if you're not familiar with that term, it's a mathematical term, and it basically means like 1/10 or a magnitude lower. So if we start off with 100, 1 log reduction leaves you with 10. You basically knock off the last digit, and that's your log reduction. But we usually refer to it the other way as like we're removing 90% of the stuff, and that's what we get with 1 log reduction. And 2 log reduction would be 99%. So if you want to know how much log reduction you have, you just count the number of 9s. So we're looking at 99.99% reduction of viruses and so forth for that. Now, the first step that's usually required for a drinking water system, which your system doesn't have right now, is some form of filtration, right? And there is some water systems that get filter exemptions, but that's when the turbidity levels have to be below a certain amount. They can't exceed too much per 12-month period. And there has to be, like in the raw water, only so many E. coli and things like that. There's quite a large testing procedure for that. And I'm sure you realize, with the water that you get, that it does not meet that. And so having a proper form of filtration is the first step to reducing that turbidity, which is going to, improve the system and the treatment farther down. Largely, the two things that for ultraviolet, you can imagine if you've got some dirty water in a glass and you're trying to shine light through it, you don't see the other side. And that's really what UV is. It's sunshine being blasted through a tube of light. And if you've got little particles in there, you get the pathogens can actually kind of hide behind those. You remember we're talking about things that we can see compared to things that we don't see as far as the pathogens. So those things can get some pretty good hiding capabilities when the water's turbid. And so we can go through the whole treatment system and still end up at the other end as viable organisms to make people sick, which is why turbidity is kind of the first step we go at. Now, when it comes to the chlorination, so the cleaner the water is before you add your chlorination to it is going to reduce the negative impacts of chlorination, which is taste and odor, and the other worst one is disinfection byproducts, right? There is some byproducts that will react to the material, and it basically will diminish the ability first of all, for the chlorine to do the job, so you end up having to put more in it. And more importantly, it does react with the natural organic material that's in the water there as well. So to get rid of the natural organic material, filters have a certain part of it, but you'll also be using what we call usually like ion exchange molecules, where you're actually kind of capturing and bonding up all the tannin and natural organic material, and so it doesn't pass through the system onto the treatment. And that also affects those natural organic material also affects the ultraviolet light as well. Again, you're coloring the water slightly, which diminishes the ability for the UV to get to it and do its job. So that's kind of the things. So that's the kind of level of treatment we want, and there is some challenges with the system to meet those. There's also one other thing I saw here that was mentioned to me from Ross, is that at certain times your system gets bypassed. The treatment system will get bypassed under very high water usage loads. And there's a bypass valve for that. I'm familiar with these systems. We've had one on another water system where for firefighting protection, you're going to need more water than what can be moved through the treatment system. So there is a bypass that allows that to happen. And then, of course, everybody needs to understand that that's an immediate boil water advisory for situations like that. So in summary, if everything's working well, you have potable water, right? If the turbidity level's down, the natural organic material levels are down, the UV can be working properly, your chlorination can be working properly. And so that's one of the reasons why there isn't a water quality advisory on your system for that reason. The challenge is that there's some identified weaknesses with the system, and under certain times and certain things that align, you could have concerns of water that might possibly be compromised. So if this was a system that didn't have an option, or if it was if it weren't dealing with the dam and we're just dealing with the system, Ross would have many years ago been working with this water system to hire people to do a full assessment of the system and come up with a full game plan on how this water can be properly treated and in a robust manner that can help when we have these incidences of turbidity and color in the water, that it will still be taken care of to be assured that you have potable water at the end. Because the last thing we ever want to see as a health authority and also as a water operator, the last thing in water users is to be drinking water that you think is perfectly safe, but there's some issues with the treatment not fully happening, right? So getting on to the connection with Cove Bay. I mean, Cove Bay does have a water quality advisory because it does have an ongoing situation that is known and it's happening all the time. It's a very slight one, but it was felt that, you know, this is a new system and it should be 100%, and it's not. So let's have this water quality advisory on there right now while they're working on getting these ceramic filters. I think are the biggest challenge which is going on to the system. But overall, and when we look at comparing the systems, the Cove Bay system is definitely much more robust and should be able to both provide the quantity of water and the quality of water that would be required to make people happy. And, you know, overall, the scale of economics makes larger systems more robust and safer in the long run, and actually more affordable to the water users and bring it together. And I'll just kind of close this now with I've got this little statement. It came from a report that's, I can't quote it right now because it's just in draft form. It's going from one ministry to another minister in the province here, but it just nicely summarizes the situation here. And so I'll just read it out to you. Small water systems continue to face operational and management challenges, often lacking the infrastructure, financial resources, and resilience needed to adapt to climate change. These vulnerabilities highlight the need for targeted support and long-term planning for these systems. And I think this situation really kind of summarizes that quote very well, because there's been a targeted support here with the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs giving the money to Eagle Cliff to take care of and actually come up with having a water source that will be provided to them that could be robust and long-term. And then basically having the larger population, more water users on a single system does make it more easier to operate that system, obviously, from a financial matter. So that's all I really wanted to talk about at this point. And if you've got any questions at the end, I'll be still here to answer them for you. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Next, we're going to move on to our Chief Administrative Officer, Kieran, who is going to be talking about the project itself. Are you ready, Kieran? No, you need to take your mute off. No, you're still muted.
Sorry.
There we go.
I was just asking if my presentation is active on the screen.
Yes, it's
okay. Great. I was just going to say there's a lot of people in attendance today, and we may not be able to get to every question, but we do have a chat feature in Zoom. And if you want to insert any comments or questions in the chat feature, that is another way you can get your questions into us. So with that, I'm just going to start with a quick overview of what the project is about. NB Contracting was the successful bidder to install just over 1,300 meters of new 250 millimeter diameter water main to connect the two systems together. It would include fire hydrants, replacement of culverts that are at the end of their life, and a portion of that is upsizing for climate change resilience, and installation of pressure reducing valves as well. When we tendered the project, they provided quite a competitive price, and they've been working in the west side area with those systems, and so far they've been working well and executing the project on time, and that's been going well. So why are we doing this? Is to address the water scarcity in Eagle Cliff and enhance climate resilience, as mentioned earlier by Phil with Vancouver Coastal Health, and reduce maintenance costs through the integration into a larger Cove Bay water system. So including more people in a larger combined system. The construction would happen around August 15th and would be done and concluded by February, mid-February, we estimate. And where it's going is from 1247 Ocean View Road along Lower Ocean View Road to 1449 Eagle Cliff Road. And here's a map showing the alignment where the works are going to be happening from Ocean View up to the tie-in at the Eagle Cliff. And so you can, and this information will be provided after on our website. So currently the Eagle Cliff water system is supplied by 10,000 cubic meter open reservoir. And as noted previously, there's issues with the dam. And there's also 2 low yield wells with arsenic filters. And the water from these are treated with chlorine and UV. So there's no treatment for turbidity or other constituents. And Vancouver Coastal Health has required advanced treatment due to the noted high turbidity at certain times of year. And as noted by Vancouver Coastal Health, that the decrease in effectiveness of UV treatment with the higher turbidity. And so here's just a useful graphic to show the difference in turbidity with what we're seeing currently with the water treatment plant at Cove Bay versus what we see in Eagle Cliff. And there's quite a difference between the turbidity of the two. The lower the number, the better. And so we're striving to meet 0.1 NTU is the unit of measure. And even with only the one module, filtration module up and running, we're still achieving quite favorable results for turbidity, which anecdotally I've heard from folks in the Cove Bay system that their private water systems where they have their own filtration systems, they've had to change out their own private filters quite a bit less, which confirms these numbers anecdotally. With that, I will turn it over to Glenn with Urban Systems to discuss where we are at with the project and how we're proceeding forward. Glenn?
Yeah, thanks, Kern. Hi, everybody. So I've been involved in the project from its original conception, helping identify options to better service Eagle Cliff, and have been involved through the design process and now getting into construction. So as Kern already indicated, NB Contracting, who is already engaged with the municipality, looking at some water improvements or about to complete some water improvements on the west side, will be engaged to complete this particular tie-in. I think it's public knowledge by some folks, and some questions have already been asked about the Cove Bay water treatment plant, and recognizing that it's not fully operational. And but I think it's confirmed, Kern. I think you received a confirmation email just recently here this week that the new filters are en route from Ontario, and the plant is expected to be up at full capacity here this summer. I'll talk about the timelines of the project a little bit more on the following slide. But so with that, municipality has got the support of council on June 23rd to advance with this particular water main connection project. I know that Kristen will be speaking to finance a little bit later on in the presentation, but just to highlight that this project has received grant funding in the order of 73% of the total cost. Sarah, or Kern, could you advance? Yeah. So getting more into the capacity and service connections, the Cove Bay treatment plant is expected to be up at full capacity this summer. The construction of the connection itself will take time. Again, February, March is the anticipated completion time. So the extra draw of water demand from Eagle Cliff won't occur until project completion. So there's no question that the plant will be at full capacity by the time Eagle Cliff connects, and calculations clearly demonstrate that there's more than adequate capacity in the treatment plant to service both communities. In terms of connections, at this stage, the priority is to simply connect Eagle Cliff with Cove Bay. There's no intent to, at this stage, to do any further improvements to the Eagle Cliff system, nor new service connections. Scarborough, the community of Scarborough, happens to be kind of in the middle of this extension project. And a couple of years ago, I believe was the general timeframe, the municipality sent out a questionnaire seeking input from those in Scarborough of their interest to connect to this system. At the time, anyway, there was relatively little uptake of that. The municipality didn't receive a wide range of support to connect. So at this point, again, the priority is to make sure that Eagle Cliff is connected, and connections within Scarborough as well, unless there's already an agreement in place. I believe that there may be already one commitment, but if an existing agreement has not yet been established, the focus will be on getting the main line installed, and then there'll be future initiatives perhaps to consider new connections. There may be some questions about water pressures. It is being sourced from a different location than your current reservoir, but the system is being designed so that water main pressures will be within only a couple, 2 to 3 psi, or pounds per square inch, which is quite a small number for those who are not familiar with that. So in essence, pressures will be equal to what they are today. I already covered the last bullet, so next slide.
Okay, so I'll take over from here for a few
Sure.
slides, Glenn. I just thought it would be useful at this time to talk about the plant itself. And so this is some information, schematics on the plant. So what we use is what Purifix provides are these continuous ultrafiltration modules, and you'll show the range of ones that they provide. What we have in Cove Bay is a DM36 model, which is pictured there. It's the third one in line. And then all the typical contaminant removal performances for that system. So when optimally performing, we should get a log removal value for E. coli and crypto of 5.7. I understand that's what they're achieving at a similar plant right now in Grand Isle, BC. And so that just shows the reduction when the plant is running optimally. These are some photos from inside the plant that we currently have showing these continuous ultrafiltration modules. Just for scale, the footprint of this plant building allows for doubling of plant capacity, so we could conceivably in the future, when necessary, double the capacity of the plant by adding another skid of this treatment equipment. This shows just what actually cleans the water. So on the right side, you'll see what these ceramic ultrafiltration tubes, I'll just refer to them as tubes, used to clean the water, and there's 38 of them in each module. Right now, we have one module that's working very close to as intended, and then the other one's being down, and it's correct that we have received a shipment of replacements from the supplier that are en route and will be installed next week. And with the addition of that, the hope is that we will be up and running 100% with those two modules. And so with that, I'll hand it back over to Glenn for more details on the project.
Yeah, and just certainly we anticipate that traffic control during construction is on people's mind. There is a detailed traffic management plan in production with the contractor NB in consultation with Bowen Island staff and emergency services. So the real details are still to be sorted out. But in essence, the majority of the project will be having alternating one-way traffic with some temporary road closures in the upper ocean view. And maybe actually, could you just bump to the next slide and then we can come back to this. I thought it would be, yeah. So the red highlighted section. So in the project begins on upper ocean view, just in the vicinity of Jason Road, and then continues down through an unopened roadway where their pathway is, and then goes down into lower ocean view. So that portion itself will require, it's quite narrow and will require full road closures. Perhaps I'll elaborate on that in a second, but now that we've presented the graphic, maybe bump back to the previous slide for a second. Yeah, so the final bullet we've got there is residents in those closed sections will be given advance notice about being able to relocate a vehicle, and the closure would only occur during the construction working hours, but full property access would be restored at the end of a working day. We can answer further questions on that, and the representative of NB Contracting is here in the presentation as well to help answer questions later on. Okay, next slide, please. Or next slide again.
That's
that's it. Okay.
So that concludes this section of the presentation. I guess the NB is here to answer any questions in the Q&A session, unless there's anything specific that they would like to add at this point. I'm not hearing anything, so I will stop sharing screen, and the next presenter, I believe, is our CFO. So I'll hand it over to Kristen, our CFO, to present her presentation.
I do see a hand raised, but we really were going to wait until after the presentations were finished to have people start asking questions, just so it's fair for everybody.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought we were starting the Q&A, so I jumped ahead.
No problem. Okay, Kristen.
Okay, thank you. I'll just go through this again. There. Okay, I trust that it's up and everybody can see it. Okay, thanks. So starting with the basic finances of the project. The total contract as it's been awarded is just under $2 million. We have a 10% contingency included, and we have a budget for construction management at this point. So our total estimated expenditure to date is $2.26 million. Now, much of that is grant funded. The original grant was based on a 73.3% cost share. To be clear, that grant was awarded in 2023. There have been some inflationary cost escalations on the project since that time, and the grant is fixed. So where we initially had we awarded a contract back 2 years ago when we'd gotten the grant, we could have expected that. I do anticipate a little bit of erosion of our purchasing power on our grant going forward. So I'll show you a pie chart just in the next slide that shows really the cost breakdown as of now, as of this contract, as it's been awarded. So portions of this project are going to be split among being funded by the Eagle Cliff Local Service Area and Bowen Island municipality in general. So general requirements are kind of like site mobilization and traffic control, those sorts of things. We have that as an 80-20 split on the non-grant funded portion of the overall project. The earthworks, so that's all the digging and required to involve laying the water mains, that's going to be funded. The non-grant funded portion will be borne 100% by the Eagle Cliff residents. The roads and site improvements, that piece is going to be funded by the municipal, Bowen Island General Municipal. There's a piece within the utilities piece of the project that is attributable to fire hydrants. So that cost to install the new fire hydrants along the way, that part will be shared by the grant and by Bowen Island municipality taxpayers general. And then of course the culverts and catch basins piece is part of the municipal portion of picking up the project. So overall, the overall 2.2 million cost, 1.5 of it is being funded by grant. Just under 130,000 is being funded by Bowen Island municipality by our general funds, and just over 604,000 being funded by the Eagle Cliff local service area. So with that breakdown, that shows a 6% allocation to the municipal, 27% of the cost of the project is being paid for by Eagle Cliff local service area, and just over 2/3 of it is being paid for by the grant. So back last year, Eagle Cliff residents were asked to agree to borrowing up to 820,000 through short-term borrowing in order to fund their portion of the project. So we want to ensure that there's sufficient funding to provide for any cost escalations or any unplanned contingencies. So we asked for approval to borrow an upper ceiling limit that was in excess of the approved project amount. So that number was 820,000. And those loan proceeds will be accessed once the project starts, but just drawn down as needed, and only what is actually necessary to fund the project is going to be borrowed. We've estimated a 5-year repayment timeline on that loan. And why we're doing that is so that we don't have to lock it into long-term debenture debt when we get money that is locked into long-term borrowing, 5, 10, 15 years. We don't save interest over the cost of the project. Our interest costs are fixed over the entire length of the term of the project. And it's unfortunately not it's a very expensive way to borrow money, but if we want to borrow in excess of 5 years as a municipality, that's our only option, is to lock into long-term debenture debt. So given that $820,000, we can save a lot of money by keeping it in short term. It means it's like a line of credit, and all payments that we make, every single time we make a payment on it, it goes to reduce the principal, and our interest costs are right away reduced as the value of the principal declines. So that's our most preferred method to extinguish this debt, is to go this short-term route. Looking at a loan amortization on the potential amount. So there's a range of what the parcel tax could look like. If the debt comes in at that $605,000 a month, $605,000 final cost for the project, residents could expect a parcel tax of approximately $10.85 for 5 years beginning in 2026. I'm estimating a 4.5% interest rate. Again, that's not a fixed interest rate, it's variable. So if we find that they do go up, those interest rates will go up, and that would extend the length of loan period. But what we would likely look at doing is, if we did have increased term to try and extinguish that loan, we as a municipality would still be obligated to pay it off in 5 years, but we could use our own internal funds to help extend that period for a further year if we had additional interest that was causing that loan to not be repaid as quickly as we had planned. So we have some options. As long as we keep it in short-term borrowing, then we can ensure that we we remain as flexible as possible in order to get that loan paid off in the shortest possible time. Then if we looked at borrowing right up to our limit, our approved limit of 820,000, a 5-year parcel tax, again, same thing, based on those properties in Eagle Cliff, you'd be looking at an annual parcel tax of up to $1,475 per year. But again, that all depends on what the final cost of the project comes in at, which is why that we ensured that we had a little bit of flexibility in that borrowing ceiling amount. As Glenn mentioned earlier, our primary project focus is to connect the Eagle Cliff residents to the Cove Bay water. We want to get that project completed. Once that's done, it's going to require an assessment of the treated water production capacity at the plant. What we'll need to do is to compare the actual treated water output to the rated capacity of the plant. And ensuring that that goes well, which we expect that it will, that's when we'll move into our secondary goal, which is to consider adding the additional properties, the additional connections from the properties in between. So that would be those Scarborough properties in between Cove Bay and Eagle Cliff. So confirming that treatment plant capacity, we will send out notices, and we will be inviting those properties in between to join the system. We estimate at this point that the expected connection cost, will be somewhere in the neighborhood of approximately $16,000 per property. And part of these funds will go directly to reducing the borrowing that the residents of Eagle Cliff have undertaken to fund the connection. And these properties will then be participating in the Eagle Cliff parcel tax. The third phase then, which we are looking to consider doing, would be merging all 3 of the local service areas into a single local service area. This is a very significant undertaking. It does require a petition process in both the Eagle Cliff area and the Cove Bay area, and it requires the assent of residents in all of those areas. And then it requires that council would adopt a merger bylaw to create a single service area. It's an administrative process. We need to undertake a financial calculation that's required to look at the net financial assets of all of the assets in both local service areas, because our aim would be to achieve a sense of equity equilibrium prior to the merger. So we can't have one local service area with really old and outdated infrastructure and no money in reserve merging with another local service area that has all brand new infrastructure and lots of money in reserve. So what we need to do is do an analysis, a financial analysis, taking into account what's sitting in the reserve funds of the 2 respective local service areas, and figuring out a financial transfer of funds from one to the other to achieve a sense of equilibrium. Because going forward, all of the residents in all of the areas would be responsible financially to maintain and look after the assets in the newly created large local service area. So that is another third kind of further down the road piece where we anticipate that we will look to move forward with. And we'll have to create a new information package at that time. It will need to have the final values in we'll need to have the projects complete. Cove Bay is undergoing some large capital investment in this summer as well on parts of it. So all of those dollars that have been spent need to be brought into that calculation. So I think I did share some numbers with you folks probably about 18 months ago or so. But given what's been the investments and the ever-changing reserve fund balances that happen over that time, it really has to be looked at once again and recalculated at that time, and the new values based on the new investments in both of these local service areas does take into account. So I'm not able to provide that. I'm not able to provide that forward data yet until we get through these 2 projects. So I'll stop sharing here, and maybe we can get to some of the questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Kristen. I will just ask that hopefully everybody knows how to use their digital hand to raise their hand for questions, and there are a lot of you, so I'm going to do my best to get to you all in the correct order. For now, I see that Glenn Cormier has his hand raised, so Glenn.
Thank you, and I appreciate the presentation. I actually have several questions, but they're not all mine. Sometimes I get questions referred to me from residents, but I wanted to make a couple of comments before I ask one question, then I'll get to the back of the line before I ask any more. So I've been involved in a lot of these discussions for many years, so I am quite familiar with a lot of the discussion, the presentation. I do appreciate that. I've been a big proponent for the connection for a long time, but also been watching very closely what's been going on with the Cove Bay water treatment plant, and it's very, very concerning for many residents in Eagle Cliff in regards to the time frame that's been involved here. I think 4 years to try and get this thing sorted out, issue after issue after issue with the ceramic filters, with the modules not working properly. So I think that I'd really like to gear in on that a little bit. We obviously heard from Phil that, in Eagle Cliff, we know that there's problems with the system in general, but currently we don't have a water quality advisory on our drinking water, whereas Cove Bay does. I operate 2 restaurants in the Cove, and there's big notices up in my restaurants to people warning them not to drink the water if they have compromised immune systems. And so we're being asked to join this system. And it's curious to me, just again, another quick comment in regards to the stage 3 water advisory that's island wide, including the Cove Bay system. When we're told that there's significant more volume of water on the Cove Bay system, why is it in a phase 3 or a stage 3 water conservation along with all the other systems? But I guess the one thing I wanted to really kind of ask about, when the initial borrowing was taking place for the $820,000 for Eagle Cliff residents to come forward, and there was the petition against it that moved forward based on 10% only and petitioning against. I just want to note that there was the January 22nd, 2024 council meeting where council did, upon request from the Eagle Cliff community, add into the notice of intent that the borrowing for Eagle Cliff would only happen once the water treatment plant was operating and complete. And it does sound to me, just based on what Glenn mentioned, he did specifically say it's not fully operational. Although he did say there's no question it will become operational. I would challenge that most people do have questions about that. But I would suggest that based on the fact that the community did vote to borrow based on it being fully operationally complete, that I'm hoping the municipality will not be drawing down on those funds until it is operational complete. If they choose to move forward on the project, they can use reserve funds to fund the start. But I don't believe that the community supported borrowing towards a system that is not operational and complete. So I'd like to get some feedback on that if I could, please, first.
Yeah, I can certainly answer that question. I just want to start off by saying I share the frustration with the system. I understand it. I've been with the municipality for 10 months, and I've been working to rectify that. And we have had strides with that. The vendor of the equipment has acknowledged that they have an issue with ceramics and have committed to replacing all of them. And so the first batches are on the way, and we anticipate all will be replaced. And verbally and in writing assured that we'll have a fully operational plant. And that's required a lot of discussions and relationship building with that vendor, including a personal visit of mine to the plant on personal business when I was in Ontario visiting friends there. So we are moving in the right direction in terms of your question about operational. I mean, it is operational. We are producing water there. It's going through the system. We've built the building. It has been completed. It is a complete system. And right now, what we have in terms of the ceramics is a maintenance issue. They have defective ceramics. They're covered under warranty, and the vendor has committed to replacing it as they are required to under contract. And we have batches coming in, so it's a maintenance issue. This is an operating plant.
Can you confirm that again, we went through the process of the petition against with the understanding that we would not be borrowing until the plant was completely operational and complete. And I understand that there's been a lot of back and forth on this, and I do, one of my questions is in regards to these filters that seem to be continuously failing. This is not the first time we've replaced filters in this system. So to suggest that there's more filters on the way and we're all good to go is not a reassuring comment for the community. We've been through this before with these filters, and what assurances do we have that the new filters will have a long-term warranty? I mean, are we just buying into a lemon of a system? And as I say, I'm a big proponent of this connection. I've been encouraging our community to do this and abandon our current water system. But I really am going to dig in my heels if we're buying into a system where this brand new water treatment plant is a lemon, and we really don't know if there is any ability for these filters to do their job. As you know, the manufacturing defect, how far down the chain does it go? Are we going to have more issues in the future? We don't know. But I just would like to get an assurance from the municipality that what we voted on, the municipality will make good on, and that they will not borrow funds on our behalf until we have a functioning system, properly functioning system.
Well, so the borrowing notice said we'd have a completed system and an operational system, and both of those are true. We have an operational
it's not
system.
Fully operational.
Yeah. We have a maintenance issue right now, and in terms of assurances, I can tell you that Purifics has functioning systems. They have a system very similar to this in Grand Isle that's achieving its log removal. They have come forward and said they had an issue with the ceramics. They were receiving ceramics from one particular manufacturer, and they've switched now back to a manufacturer that has a tried and tested and was providing ceramics in the past that met all their specs. And so the batch they've quality control and quality assurance tested and verified in their plant before shipping them out here. So, and they have guaranteed in writing to us that this will be up and running. So I can only at this time relay the assurances that I've received from the vendor of this equipment. And as to the replacement of past ceramics, I don't believe they've all been replaced. I believe portions of them have been replaced. And this time around, what's different is they've committed to replacing all of them with new ones.
Okay, so just one more follow-up then, because I've just in reading the history. I mean, this was a promise from January. I'm just going to go back here because I've got it all in front of me. So January 17th of 2025, the water filtration equipment did not function properly when it was returned for a factory reset. They got one module up and running, and filter tubes were to be delivered in the first 2 to 3 months of this year. Are we still waiting on that then? Just because the new update from July 14th of 2025 seems a lot more optimistic than the previous ones. And I'm just wondering if it's more of a sales pitch to the community or if we actually have made progress since January on that. Are we still waiting for it?
We have made progress. Since I've come into the role, I've had a lot of engagement with the vendor, and getting them to admit that they have defective ceramics was a big leap for them. They've fully taken responsibility. They're fully committed to replacing these ceramic filters. And we continue to have a positive relationship with them. And so we will receive the first batch next week. We've already made improvements since we've come here. Initially, we were blending water and bypassing them. We have one module that's producing water that's around 2.5 log removal number, which you're required to have 3. And the turbidity, based on the data we've been collecting, has been below the standards. So there has been market improvement in the water quality over the last year through these efforts. So
can you comment on the volume?
Yeah, on the volume, we are currently producing 1,200 cubic meters a day. When we have the other module up and running, we are anticipating approaching the peak volume that we required. So we're working towards 2,400 cubic meters a day.
So again, the current water restrictions, phase 3 water restrictions on the Cove Bay system is due to the half functioning water treatment plant.
No, that's not correct.
Okay, why
That-
are we
that-
in
that-
stage 3 in Cove Bay then?
We're on stage 3 because the province had indicated that this would be a drought year. We're seeing that, so we're being proactive in our water management.
So it's just across the board. So there's no way for residents on the island to differentiate between water conservation between Eagle Cliff and Cove Bay and Blue Water. To everybody, we should all just be doing our best, kind of thing. Is that the message? It seems a little bit strange, but I'm just being conscious of how much time I'm taking. I want to make sure.
Yeah, I think there are other folks that
Yeah,
do
so
have
let's do
questions. So
that.
if you have
I might
remaining
jump in.
questions, we can circle back to people. But we want to make sure the question time is distributed equitably amongst everybody to the extent we can. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm actually right now, I'm not seeing anybody else with their hands up right now. But I will direct Karen, if I may. There was a question that was emailed in. Most of the questions that were emailed in, thank you to everybody that did. There was one that was emailed in that I don't think we've addressed though, just yet, and that was regarding the existing infrastructure in Eagle Cliff. They were curious to know what would be happening with the reservoir and also the tanks in Eagle Cliff once the connection project is complete.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'm probably going to defer a portion of this to Glenn for more detailed commentary, but the dam safety officer has indicated that the existing dam in Eagle Cliff requires major rehabilitation. We estimate the cost of that rehabilitation to be between $1 million and $2 million. If we can keep the dam as a backup source, we would like to do that, but it ultimately comes down to what the dam safety officer is willing to allow. And if the cost of keeping it as a backup dam or a source is several $1 million in rehabilitation costs, and the business case for doing that diminishes. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Glenn for any additional context.
Yeah. With respect to the existing reservoir, it's going to provide service to both communities for the time being. As part of the design process or the preliminary design process, I think long term, there is intent and desire to expand or create a second reservoir, the one that's referred to as the high zone 1 reservoir. Which currently services the north end of the Cove Bay system. Desired to increase that storage capacity to bring largely fire flow up to current standard, but just to keep the project at a manageable size, and given the funding, the reservoir expansion is deferred, and at this point it's focused strictly on the main connection.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I believe I can see Neris has a physical hand up. Do you have a question there?
Yeah, I have a number of questions that I put on the chat. I'm just wondering if you can address those.
Yes, with the chat questions, there are a few here. I'm going to go through and address. Do we want to address them as we go, Karen, or how would you like me to handle this?
Why don't we just go through them all? I think there was one person who had their hand up, and I think we can keep on going with questions for a longer period. And so why don't we just go through each one of these chat questions then?
Okay. The first one is from Neris. She's saying, how can we be assured that cost per household will remain at $1,600? And does this amount become part of our taxes and therefore available for tax deferral? Kristen, maybe?
Hi. Yes, thank you. The parcel taxes, I think that I showed you in the slide, The numbers are going to vary because of it. It is a variable rate interest loan. Probably the numbers that we saw a year and a half ago were based on a higher interest rate. We have seen some relief in interest rates, so they have been coming down. So the interest rate that I've been using in this debt scenario is 4.5%. The parcel tax, once set, will be fixed for 5 years. And what the amount won't change, but we may look to extend it a further year if there's variability coming from that interest rate fluctuation. So I think I mentioned in my presentation, if we would need to borrow the funds for longer than 5 years, we would look to float that additional internal loan through the use of municipal funds, through the use of accumulated surplus. We would repay that loan, and uh, we would keep the parcel tax on for a further year in order to fully extinguish that 5-year variable floating rate loan. Did I answer all your question, Naris, or was there something else?
Yeah, it was just the parcel taxes. Are they part of the tax deferral?
Oh, yeah, they
Yeah,
are. They're
okay.
anything on your
Yeah.
tax notice is
Yeah.
deferrable and is eligible for that program.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so then, thank you, Kristen. The next question is, what analysis has been done of the current system in terms of the cost to fix the present system versus hookup? And how can there be additional density in Snug Cove with the addition of the units in Eagle Cliff to the Cove Bay system?
So that's a two-part question. And by the way, these are great questions. So I think the first part of it on the analysis of the current system versus the hooking up, I'll defer that to Glenn because Urban Systems did some of the analysis on those different options, I believe, in terms of rehabilitating the dam.
Yeah, sorry, turning mute off. I certainly don't have the financial numbers at my fingertips, but there's both a cost component to that and a constructability component to that. The dam safety officer, in terms of trying to rehabilitate, there was a number of things at play. One is recognizing that the watershed area to the current reservoir is really very limited. And I think you folks who do live in Eagle Cliff recognize that you've been on the verge of running out of water numerous times over the past number of years. So there certainly is a supply issue, which I think needs to be considered. Secondly, the dam safety officer has recognized that the dam essentially needs to be rebuilt. The logistics are that you can't maintain the reservoir in service and rebuild it at the same time. So there was a temporary water supply challenge there. And then beyond that, it is then getting into the treatment issue. So in order to meet the Vancouver coastal health requirements, a very expensive treatment system would need to be added, and then just the access, given its location of that reservoir. So in a nutshell, there was many factors that went into the evaluation process. Again, I don't have the financial comparison, but like I said, I think the decision extends far beyond just the financial aspect. So hopefully that answers the question.
And then there's a second question in here about density in Snug Cove with the addition of the units in Eagle Cliff to Cove Bay. So the current analysis of what the plant is able to produce and what's required in terms of demand based on Eagle Cliff and Cove Bay right now, we have enough water to achieve that, and we can manage that. If there was to be additional development, such as Grafton Lake Phase 2 and Phase 3, if we're required to build more capacity in the plant, we would be collecting fees from the development of those, and we can put that money towards plant expansion in the future. So hope that answers the question.
Kern, Dylan.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, the next question in the chat is this project does not include an upgrade within Eagle Cliff. So that means that Eagle Cliff will still be coping with inadequate water supply, less than standard diameter lines for fire protection. Is this true? Sorry if that wasn't clear. I can repeat it if you need.
No, that's fine. I'll defer to Glenn on that as well.
That's not my understanding. This is being designed to ensure that there's adequate fire protection provided throughout the systems. There isn't in terms of reservoir storage, that's not, but the line is too. Glenn, you're shaking your head, so.
Well, yeah, no, that was part of the original plan, was to replace the line within Eagle Cliff to go to the I think it's a 80 millimeter. I can't remember what the size of right now we do not have sufficient pipes in the ground between fire hydrants to meet fire needs, and
Okay.
there is nothing in this current plan to replace that. So no, Eagle Cliff will not meet firefighting standards with this upgrade.
Sorry, I misinterpreted the question. I thought the question was around the ability of this current connection to satisfy water demand. Yes, you are correct in terms of the extension into the existing, because currently the scope doesn't involve any improvements directly within the Eagle Cliff system.
So that I've got my hand up regarding that question. I had it up previously, but yeah, we pay quite a large premium right now for our fire insurance, and one of our major reasons for supporting this whole thing was that we'd have proper fire protection and we could save, like we pay double for fire insurance that we would, so that's on top of all the other expenses. So that's a really big issue, that we're not going to get that as part of this. That was understanding right from the get-go that we would be getting proper fire protection.
Just to follow up on that, it was part of the initial, I think, plan, but it was cut based on budget. Just from my
so will we have a discounted charge for all the people that are getting proper fire protection and we're not, and we're paying double the fire insurance of everyone else?
It is a frustration. Sorry to jump in on that. In that I believe all of the people who join along Scarborough will have that added benefit, and I still never really got an adequate answer to my question in regards to the firefighting. Obviously, the hydrants will be installed in the new section. The proper size line will be installed in the new section, and they will all have the benefit of the added fire protection, regardless of whether they join the system or not. All of those people along the way will get that added protection without having to put up any money for it, and we will be paying for that. That was just part of the best practice.
We'll be paying for it, but actually not getting it then. I mean, you have the most to gain. Your neighbor's house burned down and nearly took yours with it. So
that's correct. Yeah, I remember it well.
I'd prefer the people getting the protection. We already pay for the double the insurance to get our protection for when our house burns down, because we're not offered protection by the muni.
Yeah, I do believe firmly that there should be a parcel tax applied to all of Scarborough for the benefit of the fire protection they're getting, regardless of whether they're connecting to the water. But I think we're getting off course with that. So I mean, this is ancient history now.
We have about 5 questions in the chat. Yeah. I think we can get through them, and then we can open it up again for other questions. So let's continue on. Sarah?
Thank you, Karen. The next one, our property is at 1413 Eagle Cliff Road. Is currently dependent on a water license from Bluff Creek. We have indicated wish for connection to a new water line. How will we arrange this?
So I'm just looking to Glenn to see where this is relative to our project, and if it's in or is it in one of the areas where, like Scarborough?
It's basically in the Scarborough area.
I'm pulling up. I'm pulling up my map.
It's in the in-between area.
So it's in the Scarborough area. Yeah. What was the
Yeah.
address again, please?
1413 Eagle Cliff Road.
1413.
Is it? I mean, it seems ridiculous that if you're putting in the line, if you can't put in the connections at this, or at least the origin of the connections at the same time the line is being installed, to have to go back and dig it all up again afterwards seems to be totally unnecessary and added expense to
Yeah.
everybody.
Yep, I think the issue of service connections is not necessarily a closed one. It's just that the scope right now in terms of the contract with the contractor, NB Contracting, is for the main line. But as is the case with the works going on in King Edward Bay and Blue Water, is that the community is taking a more direct role in terms of addressing the service connections. So I would imagine that there'd be an opportunity to still engage with the municipality in terms of commitments to service connections. There is a connection charge, so the details of that would have to be sorted out.
So would you recommend communicating with the municipality as soon as possible to ensure that this happens?
Yeah, I mean, the municipality has to vocalize themselves their willingness to open up conversations for service connections. But yes, that would be the avenue for you to go.
And to whom should I address this question?
Well,
Yeah,
I think I can jump in on that one. Like currently we're just looking at Eagle Cliff, the issue with the intermediate kind of service connections along the way. We're waiting for the purific ceramic filtration units to come in, and then once we have the plant up and operational fully and confirm the total capacity that we're producing, at that point we're going to reassess the hookups.
Okay, let me have a quick look here. Thank you, Karen, for answering that, and to Glenn. The next one is, does Bowen Island Municipality have a big picture analysis of Grafton Bay in terms of its ability to provide, I think that's Grafton Lake, in terms of its ability to provide safe water to all the new hookups?
Yes, I was involved in, before there was commitment to this project, one of the assessment pieces was a study to gather information about how the Grafton Lake was performing and to do an assessment of demand with and without the connection of Eagle Cliff, as well as with and without the projected impact of climate change. And the results of that analysis indicated that the lake does have, as long as it's operated optimally, has adequate capacity to accommodate the expanded area as well as accommodate climate change. However, there is a reduction, so and there will be a need for ongoing monitoring. Eagle Cliff overall represents a pretty small additional demand on the system. Certainly the demand being drawn out of the existing Cove Bay system far exceeds the Eagle Cliff and even bringing in Scarborough. I'm currently working with, there's additional monitoring that's been installed on the lake, and I'm currently working with Bowen Island Municipality staff to do an updated assessment here this year, and monitoring will be ongoing. Both the demands of the communities as well as climate change still have uncertainties in them. So it'll be an ongoing exercise of monitoring and making adaptive management decisions.
Are we able to see any of those reports? Are they public?
Yeah, the initial report, I believe Annette's maybe the best person to answer that, whether that's been made a public document or not.
Yes, they are public, and I can specifically send them out to you or hint you to the link on the website.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. The next question is, will you be sharing the project progress? And if so, where can we access that info? I think I can answer that. Yes, we will be sharing the progress of the project. We will be having sort of ongoing meetings such as this as the project progresses, to give updates, allow you guys to ask questions and have sort of a discussion about it. We also do have, the last slide of the presentation, it was there, but I'll also let you know that we do have a dedicated capital projects page on our website. For that, you just go to the Our Government section of the website and scroll down to capital projects, and it's listed there. So I'll be updating that as regularly as I receive the updates and making sure that's all up to date. You can also send an email if you have any specific questions to the email address is water@bimbc.ca. And again, that's on the final slide of the presentation, which was included in the agenda. If you need direction for that, and if you still can't find it, well, feel free to give me a call and I can give you all the information that you need to reach all of those different spots to receive updates. Lastly, you should also sign up for our e-newsletter, which will mean that, as I'm emailing out the updates, you'll be able to receive everything via email without having to seek them out yourself as well. Okay. Next, I see Glenn Cormier has his hand up again.
Well, sorry, Sarah, just before we get to Glenn, there are a few other questions in the chat. So how can I talk to Aaron Hamilton?
Oh, I didn't see that one, sorry.
Yeah, so I think that's an easy one. Aaron's here. He'll be on site if you need to. Aaron, are you able to speak to that directly on how any residents could contact you?
Most resident concerns should go through the municipality. Day to day, I'll have a superintendent on site that'll communicate with affected local residents if they have any issues. And you can ask me any questions right now if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a few that are speaking about just the operations of the Cove Bay system. I'll respond to those collectively. I'm just trying to get through some of the easier ones I saw here. There's a question about there's a $16,000 connection charge. I'll defer to our CFO for that.
I'm sorry, I'm just not clear what the question is.
There's a $16,000 connection charge.
Yes.
I think the question is there a $16,000 connection charge?
Oh, is there? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, that's our estimate of what it will cost for those properties in between to connect.
Okay. So then there's some questions on the operations of the plant. So the plant is operational. There's maintenance issues around ceramics. They're covered under warranty. A batch is being shipped out. Any operational plant will have maintenance issues from time to time, but it is producing water. It's meeting the demand of Cove Bay. It's the fact that we're on stage 3 water restrictions is not related to anything that's happening at the plant. It's because of climatic conditions. So yeah, I don't know how I can phrase that any different, but it's an operational plant. It's being completed, and all the ceramics are under warranty, and we've gotten verbal and written commitments from the vendor that they'll provide us with what we need to maintain the plant at full operations.
Okay, there's another question in the chat that, again, Kristen, I think this one's probably for you, just asking when the parcel taxes, or at least this connection, when they're going to have to start paying for that?
So if the question is in regards to the connection fee for the properties in between, we will just focus on commissioning the water treatment plant with the new filters as soon as that's done, and we can confirm that the rated capacity matches what the plant is producing. Then we will be sending, well, I'm sure we will have probably sending a notice to those properties in between with the information about how to fill out an application to connect and to pay that fee. So we'll also make that information available on our project website. A lot of you have already made yourselves known to us, so we do know who many of you are. So certainly we would do our best to reach out. But if you are one of those people who is interested in connecting, and after we've gone through that process to confirm rated capacity production of treated water, then please use that email address, water@bimbc.ca, to ask any of your questions. That email goes to myself, it goes to Annette, it goes to any of the people who need to be part of that process to help you fill out a application form and process that payment. So keep all your all your communication through that single email, and we'll make sure that the request gets to the right person. If it's the parcel tax that your question was in relation to, that parcel tax will start being levied on the 2026 property tax notice.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. What looks like the last question here for now is someone asking who the supervisor on site is if Aaron's not available. So maybe another one for Aaron.
Yep, his name's James Wells, and if you have any issues, you can feel free to talk to him once he's in your neighborhood. Alternatively, if you have any concerns right now, please feel free to email me, aaron@nbcontractingltd.com.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, Karen, I feel as though we've been through the questions in this chat.
I see, is it Byrne? Is it your hand that's up? Sorry, if I'm reading my screen here.
I don't see.
Yeah, I have my hand up. And my
Yeah,
apologies.
he uses physical hand.
Oh, physical hand. I apologize. Sorry, I'm looking at a different screen.
My apologies. I couldn't figure out how to raise the really nice yellow hand in the screen. I sent in a couple of questions earlier by email, and there was one that I haven't seen answered yet. If I could raise that, if that's okay. So in the Eagle Cliff Cave Cove Bay Connection Project page that we looked up, I looked up earlier, fairly far into the bottom of the document, there is a statement that says repayment of the Cove Bay debt is to be borne by the entire merged area. So you talked about merging the Eagle Cliff, Cove Bay, and area in between, and so I was just curious about what those repayments are going to be. I'm still not clear about the difference in cost on hooking up between Eagle Cliff water system residents and those in between. But if you could start with just telling us what sort of repayments are to expected after somebody is hooked up.
Yep. So the Cove Bay water treatment plant was financed with a combination of grant funding, of Cove Bay Water Reserve funds, and debt. So the Cove Bay debt, there are actually two separate loans that Cove Bay residents have as their own parcel taxes on their tax notice to repay the debt. One is one is about $135 and one is about $165. I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers right off the top of my head, but that's the order of magnitude that they are. So one of the loans is a 30-year loan. That's the cheaper loan, the $127 a year loan. That is, there's about 24 years remaining on that loan. It was a 30-year loan. And the other one is an internal loan repayment. So Cove Bay users used $1.1 million of general Bowen Island Municipality general funds to complete construction of the water treatment plant. So that is an internal loan which has a 10-year repayment, and I think I think it's extinguished in 2032, and that's the 164 annual parcel tax. So once the Eagle Cliff residents are hooked up and accessing their water from Cove Bay, they would also have to share in the repayment cost of the water treatment plant loans.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Kristen, just while you're still here off mute, maybe just clarify the $1,600 per year. I've got a question here. So we are paying the $1,600 per year before we are even connected. Could you maybe clarify who's paying the $1,600 per year? Is it?
So there's a parcel tax required of all people in Eagle Cliff, or all people who have connected to that system. And that is to pay for the interconnection. That's to pay for the infrastructure between the Eagle Cliff and the Cove Bay. That will be paid off by an annual parcel tax for 5 years of somewhere between $1,500 per year and $1,100 per year. If you are one of those properties in between and you wish to connect to that new infrastructure, the cost for you to connect to that new infrastructure will be approximately $16,000. And once you're connected, you, like all the other residents of Eagle Cliff, will be also paying for that parcel tax to pay off that $820,000 cost to build the infrastructure that connects those two.
And sorry, there's this, I remember related to this too, there was, I believe, a question in there that after 5 years, would they have to pay that $16,000, or would it end at 5 years?
1,600. Sorry, $1,600.
1,600, yeah.
Yeah, after that, we're going to have to look at a new fee to join the system. We can't have properties that just hold out 5 years and then connect later when it's cheaper. That's not really fair to the people who did fund the infrastructure. So all of the local service areas have an infrastructure expansion. There's an infrastructure expansion fee, whereas any new property that's looking to join at that point, again, it looks annually at the net value, the equity in the system, and it requires a contribution of funding in order to, in other words, make that new property whole with the other properties that have been paying and contributing to the equity of a system for all of these years. So it's a infrastructure expansion policy that is available on our website, and we probably need to look at updating those values. We should be updating those values every year. We typically update it when we get a request from a property outside of a local service area to join. We have not had very many properties asking to join local service areas of late, because we do have we are just limiting new additions until we really get our capital projects sorted out and figured out. But conceptually, there needs to be a buy-in contribution from a homeowner who is outside of the system in order to bring some sense of equity equilibrium with the other properties that have been paying and contributing to that system over the years.
Also, I'm seeing the number 16,000 and 1,600 used in the chat. Could you clarify which one?
So the 1,600 was a parcel tax number that was provided 18 months ago, years ago. It was based on an annual parcel tax, which was based on a higher rate of interest. Given the reduction in interest rates, I do believe that parcel tax can come down. And again, that number will be finalized once the once the project is finished, the total funds needed to be borrowed are finalized, and any additional properties that have been permitted to join the new infrastructure is known. And at that time, we'll be able to finalize what the 5-year annual parcel tax is going to be. But it could range anywhere from, I believe, about $1,100 to about $1,500.
Okay, so there's another question. When would the $16,000 connection fee be payable?
So that would be payable again once we have determined that the plant is producing the rated capacity, which will be presumably once the new filters are received. So I would think within the next 2 months we'll have an idea about that. And we'll consider applications once we have determined that the capacity is what we had expected, and an application to join, if accepted, that 16,000 would be payable at that time. So what would be required with your application to connect?
Okay, I'm just looking here. Okay, it is 1:30. Karen, do you have any thoughts on timing?
Well, we've kept it open for a half an hour past the time. I'm just being sensitive for folks' times. I think all the stuff in the chats, we're gonna record that and use that to enhance the frequently asked questions that we're currently compiling. If there are additional questions that you have regarding this project, feel free to email them to us. We'll try to address them the best we can and incorporate them to the extent we can in the frequently asked questions.
I've just got a couple quick ones, if you don't mind, Karen. They're just from other
are
people.
are they comments or are they questions?
They are questions.
Okay.
One is a question, but it's just more clarity that we're already talking to Kristen about. And I just want to make sure that we currently have a parcel tax $500. The $1,600 will replace that $500. Is that correct? So we're actually only going up by $1,100. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are not going to be continuing with the 500.
Right, but Eagle Cliff West residents will see those Cove Bay parcel taxes added on. I believe it's listed here at 120 and 107, one until 2020, 2030, one until 2050. Those will also be added on top of our parcel taxes.
Well, that parcel tax would be added in the event that the two local service areas are merged, yes.
Once they're merged. Okay. Okay. And then, Kern, a question from someone in regards to these filters, and you have mentioned the warranty. Can you detail that warranty? What if we get the next round of filters, they come in, everything's working fine, what is the warranty remaining on those filters?
They're warranted for their design life, right? So if they are installed, they have to be replaced. The ceramic filters, when they're installed properly, should have a life of 25 years or more, is my understanding with them. So it's a comprehensive warranty, and that's why they've stepped up to replace them all.
Okay. And then Phil, really quickly, just in regards to the water quality advisory in Cove Bay, as I said, I've got notices up in my restaurant telling people not to drink the water, and we're about to sign onto the system. Can I assume that we can take those down? I've heard that the water is good right now. We're just running at half capacity. Is the water advisory still on in the Cove?
I'll just take a first stab at this and hand it over to Phil, because I spoke with Ross Adamson on this quite a bit. So we did try to remove those advisories. It's just that currently we're not meeting the log removal number of 3. Once these new ceramics are in place and they're installed next week, we anticipate the log removal number should be well below what's required. And in that case, based on previous discussions, VCH is amenable to lifting those immunocompromised notifications as soon as there's demonstrable evidence to prove that we're meeting our log removal numbers. And if somebody's got their microphone on, if they could turn that on. But Phil, do you have anything more to add on that subject?
Yeah, I mean, it's close to getting there, and I think some of it is there. We also wanted to have pressure on the supplier of these parts by saying, you know, this Cove Bay has spent a ton of money on the system, and they're still on an advisory. It's kind of to put some pressure on them as well as the safety issue. Like, that's why we're kind of keeping that on. And I think there was some talk about maybe taking it off, but we didn't want to have things that are coming on and coming off for certain things. We want to make sure that both things are running and operational, and then I think at that point it'll be able to come off, like Karen said.
And when he says both things, he means both modules, both continuous filtration modules.
Yeah. Does that answer your question there, Glenn?
Yeah, I'm anxiously awaiting that day as well. So the last question, I don't know that we answered this to it, and I'm sorry if we did, but is there a timeline to complete the Eagle Cliff connection?
That was put in there as around mid-February of next year, assuming it starts in mid-August. And I don't think that schedule has changed unless Aaron has something to contribute to that. I believe that's the plan right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. Hope that people had as many questions answered as they felt like they needed. Please remember that email address is water@bimbc.ca. You can send any questions that you have through to there. If you have a look on our website, I will be uploading sort of a fairly substantial list of frequently asked questions. I'm going to obviously be watching this video and then adding things to that list to then upload, and I'll just try and keep that up to date throughout the course of the project, as well as any other updates that come as they come our way. So thank you again, and we'll stay in touch via newsletter for the next one of these meetings.
Yeah, in closing, I just want to thank everybody. The attendance for this event has surpassed expectations, and we appreciate your interest in this important project. And thank you for making the time to attend this virtual information session on a really nice day in summer during lunch hour. So appreciate that and acknowledge that on behalf of the municipality. Thank you.
And thank you.